Hey kids, how you doing? Hope everything's okay. This is Jim from the 312 Workshop, and I have seen a piece online that I am going to recreate with kind of my own spin. In the 3D world, it would be called a remix. So I've got some cherry. You saw me milling that, and this piece has a little check in it, but I think I can work in this area. Unfortunately, this piece has tons of checks and splits, and that's going to be firewood, unfortunately. This piece here has checks and splits, but looking at the sides and whatnot, even though there is a knot here, I can work in this area here. So I'm going to be rough cutting some stuff. This is going to be kind of the bottom piece. No, I should tell you what I'm making. I'm basically making a votive holder. And the idea behind it is it has a flat piece on the bottom, and then the three square pieces that'll have the holes drilled in to hold the votives will be elevated off that. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. I'm going to make this out of cherry, but I found I've got some pine, and I think I heard a collective gasp. Interesting. Some of you are kind of freaked out about me using pine in cherry. What I'm going to be doing is I'll be doing the weave cut. You know, when I cut this 10 inches or so, I will cut a gentle arc in it. I'll have my pine ripped down to some thinner strips, and I will glue that in. And when I do the three candle holders that'll sit proud, I'm going to leave those together, and I'm going to weave a piece in, and then I'll cut them apart into three sections. So, but the pine I found has good, it's basically, you know, your usual construction grade flat sawn, but I found some where the grain seems to run the entire length of it. So I think I can rip this down into thin strips. I might even put two strips together, you know, rip it into maybe 4 strips and use 2, glue them into that so that it's a wider strip, but there'll still be a little, the grain will be close. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at, and that's what we're doing today. So let's get to work. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am spacing my bandsaw to start cutting the strips of pine that I'm going to put in the pieces of cherry, and then I'll take this off and I will cut the curves. I've got to do the setup work for that first, but I'm using a 3/16 setup block. And the sad part about it is I have a fence to put on this, and I just haven't done it yet. There we are. And that's a little tight, but not, well, when in doubt, use that. There we go. This is when this is that point you realize that your feather board and all the stuff you printed out fits your table saw, but doesn't fit the miter slot in your bandsaw. So you improvise. Okay, so you saw I approximated an arc of what I'm looking for. I drew it on here. This is the base plate, and then this is the piece that will make up the 3 floating blocks, if you want to call them that. And now to cut them. Now the trick with this is you want to cut this in a flowing line. You don't want it to stutter. Okay, so after some consideration, I realized that the strips I cut on the bandsaw were very rough, and we're going to need a lot of prep work. When you do these strips, they're going to need sanding. There's no way around that, but these are a little extreme. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them on the table saw, but I wanted to show you how you can make a rough, thin rip jig with a setup block and a feather board. So you got your blade up, and make sure your saw is unplugged. Anyway, so I printed this, and this slides in. I can adjust it in and out. Got my blade up. It's 1/8, and I'm just gonna touch it, just barely, okay? And I'm not tightening those down hard, but it's gonna keep it from moving. So then what you can do is carefully slide it back. There might have been a little bit of movement. I will check. I think that's going to work. It's going to work. And now you tighten them down. And again, this is a rough approximation of a thin rip jig. So you put this up against the fence, plug the saw back in. This one's a little thick, so I will use a thinner push block. I will tell you, I'm just not comfortable ripping that down. It's just a little too small. But I got 4 good pieces that I think will bend the way I want. They will twist. They're about right. And they will still need a little bit of sanding before I glue them in place. That is how you can use a feather board to approximate a thin rip jig. Cool, right? You can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to get rid of some of the saw marks. And you'll notice I flip it over, and that's to take care of any deflection that I'm introducing into this as I work through it. And I'm not too worried about the very ends because I'm probably going to nip those off. But that's pretty good. Okay, and now we start to glue up. I am going to use Titebond Original, and we will see how far this goes. But this should work pretty well. Again, I'm not a guy who's going to ooze glue all over the place. I'm just not that kind of person. But, you know, I'm going to make sure every area is covered in the joint. That is definite, because that pine is going to want to spring apart. You know, and again, this is an experiment. And this little bit of glue goes here. And this little happy glue goes there. You get what I'm going at, right? Hello, Bob Ross. We miss you. Do you know he's got I guess the estate's got a channel on YouTube, and they'll like stream like all of his episodes, which I just think is freaking awesome. Good enough. Now for the fun part. How do I do this? Okay. Well, I know how we can do this. Again, I used to be in the entertainment industry. Gaff tape's the way to go. Not duct tape. Duct tape leaves a residue. Well, gaff tape will if you leave it down for 7 months. But I know approximately where this will go. Just put a dab of tape there. And a dab of tape there. Yeah, I see a bearded Viking looking at me. Add a dab of glue. That's kind of cool. That's a good catchphrase. I like that. Now, I'll give that a little wipe and give this a little wipe just to make sure Let's spin you around here if I can, so you can see what I'm doing. So you see I got my gaff, I got this down. Then I will add this upright like so. We'll wipe this off, although that's going to get sanded. Now we drop this here. Bring those tight. Good. And again, if I'm a hair off, I'm a hair off. That's why we always need a thwacker. Yeah, still got a lot of squeeze out, but that's okay. So I've got a couple, got like a case of coffee stirring straws, and they can help remove some of the excess glue. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, I am going to surface this again, so hopefully that won't be too bad, but I think that's good. Well, welcome back. These have been cooking overnight. Time to take them out of the clamps. Okay, so what I did was I cut the excess down, but not close enough to damage the face on either one of these. Then I ran them through the joiner and flattened one side, got one edge 90, and then ran it through the planer on a sled. Unfortunately, I forgot to press the start button. Oh well. But, you know, that gets me down to here. Now, what I'm going to do on the table saw is I am going to square up the edges. You see I've got it a little proud, but that'll work. On this one, I will trim the edges up and do basically the same thing, but then I have to be mindful of how I'm laying out the 3 blocks I'm going to need. Because the idea is I want to lay them down so that looking from above, the weaving line of pine looks consistent through all 3 separate blocks. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys how I'm doing the layout for this. My biggest thing is to conceal this defect that's right here. I'll zoom in on it. There you go. I want to make sure that where I drill the hole for the votive will be that, and that way this is smooth. So what I've done, instead of, I laid out a center line, and I laid out a center line on the width or length and a center line for the width. I've already ripped this down to 2 3/4. This is square, so I'm not worried about that. So I just basically measured down 2 3/4 and gave myself a 1/4 inch space between. Measured another 2 3/4, another 1/4 inch of space, and then another 2 3/4. And that puts that defect almost in the middle of this one. So that should be okay. So you saw me drill the 3 holes, and I did want to let you know the holes I've drilled are a little big for just votives, because I like using real candles as opposed to the LEDs, but you do you. But this way, with the real candles, I will be dropping little glass cups in each one of these. Now, just to cut these apart. So this is my base plate. I'm going to do a little routing on it. I'm going to route a small chamfer. I'm going to use a backer board so that when I route across this bottom edge, I don't get tear out. You see I've got my chamfer on the end. Now I'm going to use a technique where I bump in various places along this edge, and then I will route the whole thing down. It should lessen the chance of a chip out. I'm going to route a small chamfer on the inside of this. Now remember the rotation of this blade or bit, and when I drop it on, I'll push it in, and then I will basically, as this is rotating, I'm pulling the piece into the rotation. So this bit is spinning this way, and I am running it the opposite way. So sanding is done. Ran through the grits, did a little water pop, finished with 220, nothing fancy. I did want to tell you one thing. Even though I'm making this for myself, I still wanted to stamp it, and now is the time to stamp it. Because when I put these pieces on and go to turn it upside down, I didn't want to take a chance that there would be a fraction difference and it would break off. Okay. So I'm going to glue the small riser pieces to the bottom. And if the alignment's a hair off, it won't be that much of a problem, because when I turn them over and glue them to the base, that's where I can definitely adjust and fix my alignment. Now, I still want to get these close. There we are. There we go. I'm probably a 64th of an inch off, but that will work. Okay, so these are all done. Now I'm ready to glue it on the base, and we will start the layout work. Well, the glue up work is, who are we kidding, right? Okay. And I am not going to try to spread that around because I really don't want any squeeze out down here. I know I need this over about 4 1/8 from the edge. Now these I'm just going to eyeball, but I'm going to use, these are little mini Jenga blocks that I have on hand. I don't know why. Bloody hell. All right. Now, while it's still a little loose, I will make sure that we're nice and straight. And I'm doing this part by eye. Now, I think we're there. The best thing I can do is to pull these out gently. There we go. And set a large piece of cherry on it and let it sit. We'll be back to finish it in a little while. As you can see, it's all glued up, ready to go. I'm going to just do a simple Danish oil on it. Nothing ultra fancy. But there's a lot of intricate pieces to get, and I'm trying to figure out how best to do that. Okay, well, I have to start with the inside and work my way out, and then maybe I can do the bottom and then pin it, put it on painter's points, and then finish the top. We'll see how it goes. So here it is, a nice little 3 votive candle holder, kind of elevated. I believe the video that gave me the inspiration for this called it a floating candle holder, and I can kind of see that, but I like it anyway. I think it looks pretty cool, kind of classy. So I'm Jim. This is a 312 workshop. I want to thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you could hit the like button on the way out, that helps with the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know you really like what I'm doing. And if you really, really like what I'm doing, I've got a buy me a coffee link in the description below. So I just want to say thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you soon back here. Thanks. Bye-bye.